What if everything you've been told about treating women is not just wrong, but quietly destroying your chances without you even realizing it? What if the more nice you become, the less you are truly desired? Today, we are unraveling a dangerous illusion, one that traps countless men into confusion, rejection, and silent frustrations. And we will expose the truth that no one dares to say out loud. Intro. Listen carefully, because this is not a fairy tale, and it is not meant to comfort you. This is the kind of truth that unsettles, the kind that forces you to question everything you believed about attraction, relationships, and human nature itself. If you study the world through the cold, strategic lens of Niccolò Machiavelli, you begin to see a pattern. People rarely respond to what sounds good, they respond to what feels powerful. And in this silent battlefield of human desire, kindness, when misunderstood, becomes weakness. The illusion of kindness vs. the power of respect. You have been taught, perhaps your entire life, that kindness is the key. Be gentle, be agreeable, be endlessly patient, always say yes, always prioritize her feelings over your own. And in theory, this sounds noble. It sounds right. But reality does not reward intentions. It rewards perception, and perception is ruthless because what you call kindness is often interpreted as submission. What you believe is care is seen as a lack of boundaries, and what you think is love slowly transforms into something far less attractive: predictability. Understand this deeply: attraction does not grow in predictability. It suffocates in it. There is a silent contradiction at play here. Many women will speak of wanting kindness, safety, emotional openness, and they do. But what they rarely articulate, what they often don't even consciously realize, is that these qualities only hold value when they are backed by strength. Kindness without strength is fragile. It feels optional. It feels replaceable, and nothing kills desire faster than the feeling that something is easily replaceable. Think about it. If a man agrees with everything, tolerates everything, forgives everything without resistance, what message does that send? Not devotion, not loyalty. It signals that he has no standards, that he is willing to accept anything just to remain in her presence. And when a man has no standards, he has no power. Now, this is where most men make their fatal mistake. They double down on kindness, they try harder, they give more, they become more available, more accommodating, more eager to please. And instead of drawing her closer, they feel her pulling away, not because she is cruel, not because she is ungrateful, but because something inside her no longer feels the presence of strength. Respect is not given to the man who sacrifices himself completely. Respect is given to the man who values himself enough to walk away. This is the brutal truth. Kindness, when paired with self-respect, becomes powerful. It becomes selective. It becomes something that must be earned. But kindness without self-respect becomes desperation. And desperation is invisible at first, but deeply felt. You must understand the difference between being kind and being controlled by the need to be liked. Because when your actions are driven by the fear of losing her, you have already lost the position of power. And power, in this context, does not mean dominance in the loud, aggressive sense. It means control over yourself, control over your emotions, the ability to say no without guilt, the ability to walk away without hesitation, the ability to remain calm when tested. This is what creates respect, and respect is the foundation upon which real attraction is built. Without it, all your kindness becomes noise. Imagine two men. One is endlessly agreeable, always available, constantly seeking approval. The other is calm, composed, respectful, but firm. He does not chase validation. He does not bend his values. He gives kindness, but only where it is deserved. Who do you think leaves a deeper impression? Who do you think feels more real, more grounded, more difficult to replace? The answer is obvious, yet so many refuse to accept it because it requires discomfort. It requires letting go of the illusion that being liked is the same as being respected. It is not. You can be liked and still be ignored. You can be liked and still be taken for granted. You can be liked and still be replaced without a second thought. But when you are respected, your presence carries weight, your words matter. Your absence is felt. Your boundaries are acknowledged. This is the shift. You must understand kindness is not the problem. Misplaced kindness is kindness given without standards, teaches others how to treat you. It silently tells them, I will accept this. And once that pattern is established, it becomes your reality. So the question is not, should you be kind? The question is, are you kind because you choose to be, or because you are afraid not to be? Because those are two very different men. One is in control, the other is controlled. And in the silent, unspoken dynamics of attraction, only one of them holds power. Why is it that the moment you become fully available, fully invested, fully there, something begins to fade? Why does the intensity drop the closer you try to get? And why do so many men find themselves confused when doing everything right, yet feeling everything go wrong? Today, we uncover a truth that sounds uncomfortable, even unfair. But once you see it, you will never unsee it. Intro. There is a pattern that governs human desire, one that operates beneath logic, beneath words, beneath conscious intention. If you observe it through the cold, calculating perspective of Niccolò Machiavelli, you begin to realize that attraction is not built on comfort. It is sustained by tension. Not chaos, not instability, but a subtle, controlled tension that keeps interest alive. And most men, without realizing it, destroy this tension the moment they believe they must prove their worth through constant availability. Desire is driven by challenge, not comfort. Comfort feels good. It feels safe. It feels like the natural goal of connection. You think, if she feels comfortable with me, she will stay. If she feels secure, she will invest more. If I remove all uncertainty, all doubt, all challenge, then she will have no reason to leave. But desire does not operate on logic like this. Desire thrives in uncertainty, in curiosity, in unknown. When everything becomes predictable, when your actions can be anticipated before they even happen, something subtle begins to die. The excitement fades, the emotional engagement weakens. And what remains is not attraction but familiarity, and familiarity, without tension, becomes invisible. This is where many men unknowingly sabotage themselves. They respond instantly. They are always available. They always agree. They remove all friction, all resistance, all mystery, believing that this will create closeness. But what they actually create is emotional flatness, because when there is no challenge, there is nothing to pursue. Understand this clearly. Humans are wired to value what requires effort. Not extreme effort, not suffering, but enough challenge to make something feel earned. When something is given too easily, too quickly, without resistance, it loses its perceived value. This is not cruelty. This is nature, and nowhere is this more evident than in attraction. When you become too available, you eliminate the space where curiosity lives. When you are always present, your presence becomes ordinary. When you always say yes, your yes loses meaning, and without meaning, there is no emotional weight. This is why unpredictability, controlled, intentional unpredictability, is powerful. Not inconsistency, not manipulation, but the refusal to be completely transparent in your patterns. The ability to have a life, priorities, and focus that do not revolve entirely around her, because the moment your world revolves around her, her world stops revolving around you. Challenge is not about playing games. It is about maintaining your own gravity. Think about it. When someone is constantly chasing, constantly giving, constantly trying to prove themselves, what does that signal? It signals imbalance. It signals that one person values the connection more than the other, and attraction rarely grows in imbalance. It grows when both sides feel a sense of pursuit, a sense of uncertainty, a sense that the other person is valuable enough to not be fully possessed. This is where most misunderstand the concept of effort. Effort does not mean overgiving. Effort means showing up with intention, not desperation. It means giving attention, not your entire identity. It means being present, but not predictable, because predictability removes emotional stimulation, and without stimulation, desire fades into routine. Now consider this. Why do people often become more interested when they feel they might lose something? Why does attention increase when distance is introduced? Why does curiosity grow when answers are not immediately given? Because the mind begins to chase what it cannot fully grasp. And this is the essence of challenge. It is not about denying affection. It is about pacing it. It is about allowing space for anticipation to build. It is about understanding that constant access reduces perceived value. Scarcity creates importance. This is why a man who is busy, focused, and not always available often appears more attractive, not because he is ignoring, but because his attention is not easily obtained, and what is not easily obtained becomes desirable. Contrast this with the man who is always there, always ready, always waiting. His presence becomes expected. And what is expected is no longer exciting. This does not mean you become distant or cold. It means you become selective. You engage, but you do not overextend. You show interest, but you do not chase validation, because the moment you start chasing validation, you lose your position. Challenge, at its core, is about maintaining self-respect while allowing attraction to breathe. It is about understanding that desire needs space to grow. It needs moments of absence, moments of curiosity, moments where the other person wonders, thinks, anticipates. Without these moments, everything becomes flat, and when everything becomes flat, interest quietly disappears. So ask yourself, are you creating a dynamic where she feels something? Or are you creating a routine where nothing needs to be felt at all? Because in the end, a desire is not sustained by comfort alone. It is sustained by the tension between presence and absence, certainty and curiosity, connection and independence. And the man who understands this balance is the man who is never taken for granted. Have you ever felt like everything was going well, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, her behavior changed? She becomes distant, challenges you, questions you, even provokes you. And you're left wondering, what did I do wrong? What if the truth is, you didn't do anything wrong at all? What if you were being tested and you didn't even realize it? Intro: there are forces in human behavior that operate silently, beyond words, beyond logic, beyond conscious awareness. And if you observe them through the sharp, unfiltered lens of Niccolò Machiavelli, you begin to understand something unsettling. People do not always reveal their intentions directly. Instead, they observe, they provoke, they measure, not out of malice but out of instinct. And in the delicate arena of attraction, these unspoken tests become a way to evaluate strength, stability, and control. The silent test. Why women push boundaries. It begins subtly, a delayed response, a small disagreement, a playful contradiction that feels slightly sharper than usual, a moment where she withdraws attention just enough for you to notice. These are not random occurrences. They are signals. And more importantly, they are opportunities, but most men misinterpret them completely. They see these moments as problems to fix, as mistakes they've made, as cracks in the connection that must be immediately repaired. So what do? They over-explain. They apologize too quickly. They try to regain approval. They chase reassurance, and in doing so, they fail the test, because the test was never about the situation itself. It was about how you respond to it. Understand this clearly. When boundaries are pushed, it is not always about conflict. It is about observation. It is about seeing whether you remain grounded or become reactive, whether you stand firm or begin to bend. Whether your emotional state is controlled by yourself or influenced by her behavior, this is what is being measured, and this is where many lose their position without even realizing it, because the moment you react emotionally, you reveal dependency. The moment you seek immediate validation, you reveal insecurity. The moment you abandon your own stance just to maintain harmony, you reveal weakness, and weakness, in the silent language of attraction, lowers respect. This does not mean you become cold or unresponsive. It means you become composed. There is a difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is impulsive. It is driven by emotion, by fear of loss, by the need to fix something immediately. Responding, on the other hand, is controlled. It is deliberate. It shows that you are not easily shaken, and stability is what creates trust. Think about it. If a small shift in her behavior causes you to lose control, to become anxious, to overthink, to chase, what does that signal? It signals that your emotional center is not within you. And when a man is not centered, he cannot lead. This is why these silent tests exist. They are not always intentional. In many cases, they are instinctive. A way of assessing whether the man in front of her can handle pressure, can maintain composure, can hold his ground without becoming aggressive or collapsing into submission. It is not about perfection. It is about consistency, because anyone can appear confident when everything is going smoothly. Anyone can seem strong when there is no resistance. But true character is revealed under pressure, and these moments are pressure in its purest form. Now consider this: when she challenges you, disagrees with you, or even slightly disrespects a boundary, what do? Do you immediately try to win her back? Do you adjust your behavior to avoid further tension? Do you suppress your own standards just to keep things easy? Or do you remain calm, clear, and firm? Because firmness does not require aggression, it requires certainty, the certainty that you do not need to prove yourself through overreaction. The certainty that your value is not dependent on her approval. The certainty that you can walk away from anything that does not align with your standards. This is what passes the test, not dominance in the loud sense, but control in the silent sense. Because the most powerful response is often the least emotional one. When you do not react impulsively, when you do not chase, when you do not lose your center, something shifts. Respect increases, and with respect comes attraction. But when you fail to recognize these tests, when you treat every moment of tension as a threat instead of an evaluation, you begin to lose ground slowly, quietly, without understanding why. And this is what makes it so dangerous, because it does not happen all at once. It happens through small moments, small reactions, small compromises that accumulate over time until the dynamic changes completely, until you are no longer seen as strong, but as predictable, not as grounded, but as reactive, not as someone to respect, but as someone to manage. And once that shift occurs, it is difficult to reverse. So the key is awareness, to see these moments not as problems, but as signals, to understand that when boundaries are pushed, you are being observed, not judged immediately, but evaluated over time, and every response you give builds a pattern that either reinforces your strength or exposes your lack of it. This is the silent game that very few understand, because it is never openly discussed. It is felt, it is experienced, it is measured in reactions, in composure, in the ability to remain unaffected by temporary emotional fluctuations. And the man who learns to navigate these moments with calm certainty becomes someone who cannot be easily shaken, someone who does not need to prove his strength, because it is already evident in the way he carries himself under pressure.